Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, all the way from the underground, from uptown, back of town and downtown, they have been called the #1 brass band in the land, the cream of the crop, the band that won't stop, the undefeated, undisputed, 20 years in running, the Rebirth Brass Band!
Come on with it! Come on, y'all! Everybody clap your hands, y'all! Come on! Clap your hands, come on! Woo! Oh, 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 oh! Rebirth National Anthem, y'all! If y'all know the song, y'all sing! If you don't know the song, y'all sing! Don't you wish you can be? I can't hear y'all! Like a Rebirth brother! Oh, don't you wish you can be like a Rebirth brother? Oh, don't you wish, baby, you can be like a Rebirth brother? Everybody! Oh, don't you wish you can be like a Rebirth?
Right here, we're at the famous spot in the world. This is where the Rebirth Brass Band started at Joseph S. Clark Senior High School, where I graduated in 1984.
And I graduated in 1986.
When I got to Clark, I was in like the 10th grade. So I didn't get there for the 9th year. I missed a year.
It was a lot of fun to me. I mean, in terms of growing up in an area that's rich in the jazz tradition, we had a lot of musicians who grew up in this area. So this is a place, if you want to form a band, this was the perfect place to form a band.
I love high school. I loved going to Clark. Every day, it was just a lot wasn't like a party. It was a learning experience. Everybody knew everybody. I mean, it was like a family thing. The teachers was family to you. Everybody had somebody who had a bigger brother, or younger brother, sister that went here.
My cousin was the principal there, Dennis Minor. It's my dad's first cousin. It's my second cousin. And he was the principal there, so he got me into Clark. And I was going to Lawless or Carver or Nichols, one of them. And he said, Kermit, why don't you come on down to Clark? So I just went down there just because my cousin sent for me to come down there.
I started out on trombone when I was in 4th grade. And what happened was when I went to Joseph S. Clark Senior High School, we had a nice sized marching band, but we were short of tubas. And they said, and I was really skinny back then. I said, I want to play the tuba because I liked that big sound. And everybody laughed at me and said, you're too small to play the tuba. I said, nah, trust me, I could do this. So I said, bring the tuba home every day, go to bed with it, wake up with it, sleep with the tuba, and practice every day. And that was a perfect instrument for me to pick up, because now here's Rebirth.
We would play in the gym at the basketball games. I just would show up with my trumpet, and right before the game start, they're about to jump ball. I wasn't even on a program, and I would stand up and play the Star Spangled Banner, and our referees would take off their hat. The football games, we would break down with a little second line, and the band teacher would really get pissed off, but we would do it every time, no matter what. I had to take off the uniforms a few times. The Clark Senior High School uniform, band uniform. Kermit, take my uniform off and go sit over there.
One of the band parents, Mrs. Washington, had a club and she wanted some music, so she asked them to put something together.
I was the president of the band parent club, and I was into Citizen Band Radio. And it was a national organization, And we had about 20,000 people coming in town, you know, from all over the country, and I wanted to do something New Orleans style for them.
Since I was band captain, I got a few of the best players in the band together, and we was just practicing on a few of the brass band songs, Mardi Gras, New Orleans, When the Saints Go Marching In, and Second Line, because that's the most popular songs during that time.
They were good. They were always good, even as young as they were.
Since we was underage, because they were serving alcohol beverages, they said you got to perform and leave. So I told everybody, look, after we perform, let's go in the French Quarter and play for tips. And a lot of them little kids said, man, we can't go just, man, let's go down to the French Quarter. Took out one of the instruments cases and struck up right there, and made a lot of tips that night. And everybody liked the idea. I told everybody, I want y'all to be back at my house the next day. We go in the French Quarter to do this again. And you know, during that time, we kept doing it every day. We started practicing. Then we started getting a few little gigs, and then we could see the shape of the band was coming along.
I'm gonna be honest with y'all. The reason why we do have a group today is because of my mother. My mother is a gospel piano player. Back in 1976, 77.
Look like I can speak for myself.
Keith myself. No, I gotta let them know the story. Keith myself used to play in church with my mom. I used to play the trombone. Keith used to play the euphonium, and we used to play in church. So we've been playing in church since we was in knee high. So that's the real reason why we are the Rebirth Brass Band, because we started playing in church.
This is our whole church. So we was baptized and everything here at Christian Mission Baptist Church. This is the place where my mother used to play gospel, piano, or organ right here. This is the same place on Sundays. My brother and myself used to come sit in with my mama playing the trombone. He was playing the baritone, which was the euphonium. He was just singing the choir. This is the birthplace of the Frazier family, so the birthplace of the Rebirth Brass Band itself, period.
She was teaching them songs like Saints Go Marching In, Lord, 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 songs like this.
Most brass bands play traditional New Orleans music. Is actually music from the hymn book, so it's important in that respect. And also, I mean, if you're going to be traveling all around the world, you can't forget about God, because I mean, you're flying, you're driving all the time, so you need to have some God in your life.
I know no band, and I get all over the world, and the city can play just a closer walk, because I taught them that way. And the way I taught them in the church, and that too alone got them somewhere. That's the only band in the city can play just a closer walk. I bring tears from your eyes because they playing it like their mother.
The Rebirth, whether they know it or not, are directly influenced by Danny Barker and by the Fairview Baptist Church Marching Band.
We was trying to get in the Super Sunday Black Mardi Gras parade one year. It was 1984, and the guy at the Hunters Field said, give us an audition. So we struck up out there, right down the field, and Danny Barker walked up and said, this is a hot young band. They don't need to give you no audition. Say, listen to this, these guys are young, they hot already. Put them in a parade. And ever since he, gave us that go ahead to put us in a parade, everything else took place.
When the Fairview Brass Band came along, it was a time when very, very young kids got the chance to be exposed to brass band music by having the chance to play it.
Danny had come back to New Orleans in 1965 after an illustrious career in New York, his last job being that of a doorman at a hotel, because his style of jazz was no longer in vogue. Came back to New Orleans, recognized that this music that he grew up with, this music that was so much a part of his introduction into music and the music of New Orleans, was really dying out. There weren't any young people picking this music up. So he went to Reverend Darby at the Fairview Baptist Church and said, look, could we organize a band? And Reverend Darby said, sure. So that led to the Fairview Baptist Church Marching Band, and really to this incredible explosion of brass band music.
When the center was first dedicated, I recall seeing a Fairview Baptist Church band play here that Keith Anderson was a part of. At that time, I didn't know I would be in the brass band, but I was kind of excited about seeing it. I was like, wow, man, there's a band over there playing, because I kind of knew what brass bands were about. And I actually saw Keith. I didn't know who he was at the time, but he's playing sousaphone. I was like, wow, that's pretty interesting.
I used to get hired by different people, playing tuba, and a lot of people saw me, so the young guys over there saw me, and a guy named Glenn Smith, and said they wanted to hire me to play again. But they had changed the name from Fairview Band to the Child Barbara and Memorial Brass Band. So, but it was still Fairview. That's what I mean.
The Fairview Band would do a lot of different kinds of jobs, but they would have regular rehearsals, and those things would really help kids to learn songs, and it was kind of competitive, so that made, you know, some people better and rise to the surface, and it was a great thing.
We started the Jazz Fest in 1970, and you know, that was the older generation of brass bands style-wise. The Eureka and Tuxedo were still around. Deshawn's Olympia was around. And then the Dirty Dozen came in, and the Dirty Dozen started the hybrid style.
When the Dirty Dozen came along, some of the players in the Dozen had been in the Fairview Band, and some had played with Leroy Jones' Hurricane Band. And so they sort of grew up in the tradition, but outside of the tradition at the same time. And I think a lot of things happened that sort of led the way or set the scene for sort of a revolution in brass bands. It was a time to not only challenge but rethink the rules and everything in life. And I think the Dirty Dozen, their music sort of represented that sort of revolutionary spirit of just kind of dispersing what is old and redefining things. And I think what they did, in a sense, was similar to what the original brass bands did when they played jazz, which was they took all of the music that was in their experiences and used it to form a new sound and a new style.
Dirty Dozen actually did like a relative funeral of mine. I think that was 1978, 79, and the first time I heard him play Blackberry Special, and I was on Do-Man and All Robinson, and I heard that sound, I was just blown away. I just said, I gotta do this. I loved it, and that just took me right then and there. And every night and then my stepfather, he used to go listen to Dirty Dozen on Monday nights by the Glass House, and when it was summertime, he used to park the car around the corner just enough so you could hear the Dirty Dozen band playing in the ballroom while we sit in the car. You could hear it so good.
More so than just seeing that the band had potential, you got to witness that there was this sort of cultural movement happening. And within that, you knew that in that context, if they were to pursue that they would have a career in music.
Head on, go nowhere, Rebirth's on his way. Everybody, head on, go nowhere, Rebirth's here to stay. Hallelujah. Head on, go nowhere, Rebirth's on his way.
This is the place that we recorded our very first album with our Holy Records out of San Francisco. It used to be called Grease Lounge, now it's called Candlelight. And this is the place that I started playing as far as boys are concerned when I was 14 years old.
Well, I met Jerry Brock through James Andrews Sr., because he was in a social pleasure called the Six War High Rollers, and he said, this guy, Jerry Brock, wants you to come down to WWZ, which was at Tipitina's during that time, and we did an interview on the station.
Jerry said, hey, I want to take you guys to do an interview and play live on the air. So we all caught a ride way uptown. I thought I was way out of town.
Actually, this guy, James Andrews, also known as 12, first brought me to a little backyard picnic in the Treme. Well, they had been on St. Anne Street or something in the Treme. You guys were playing for a little picnic in the backyard, and that was the first time I heard My first impression of the Rebirth were that they had potential.
Jerry was like a real mentor to us back then, because he always tried to help us get us a few gigs, and he was so glad to see a bunch of young kids actually trying to bring brass bands back to alive again.
I remember actually friends of mine and other people in the industry criticized me at the time for paying attention to this young kid band that could sort of half play in tune, half play out of tune, you know, but there was so much potential there, and also just knowing that the environment was right for this to happen. You knew that through encouragement, and if the band stayed together, that things would explode for them, and they did.
Jerry had a friend named Chris. I can never pronounce Chris' last name.
Chris Strachwitz of our Holy Records was in town for Jazz Fest.
He saw us, and we had met him, and we talked about some different things, doing different music. It was like, I knew this guy, he wants to record a new brass band. He wants to get a brass band on his record label.
At that time, Gregory Davis Sr., who's known as Grease, the father of Greg Davis of the Dirty Dozen, had Grease's Lounge right there between Dumaine and St. Philip Street on North Robertson Street there in the Treme.
We used to always play there all the time. We was in high school. You know, every time we did a parade, we used to go stop in the ballroom, hang out there. You know, even though we was underage hanging out in the ballroom, but that was our spot during the time, like 83 to 84. They had no outsiders during the time. They had no people from no tourists. It just was just the people in this area here. 90 people from uptown even came in, because we just started here. Just was whoever lived around and heard us was playing, that's the ones who came here to play around here.
I just saw Chris and I said, Chris, I want to make a record of this band. And he said, well, who are you talking about? I said, the Rebirth Brass Band. And Chris and I had been friends since 1972 when I was in San Antonio. And so he said, all right, I've got my recorder. He had this little, portable Nagra reel-to-reel machine, and he said, let's do it.
I can remember these two large mics. And we're on stage, just no playlist, just recording.
We didn't have much of a following, so there were like 10 or 12 people watching us play.
Yeah.
So they just used a couple of mics overhead and recorded it. Came out pretty good.
I can't remember if it was the first or the second night that we were recording, but this big guy, he's like 6'6", over 300 pounds, comes saunters into the bar room. The next thing, we think somebody's shooting a gun off. There was this little side door that led to this outside alley. Chris and I jumped out there. The whole place just emptied out. I mean, it was like completely empty, except for his mother, Barbara. She was standing on the side and she kept going, play the Saints, play the Saints, play the Saints. So the band started playing the Saints, and it ends up this guy had taken this full bottle of wine, unopened, and smashed it on the bar 3 times as hard as he could, which we thought were gunshots.
Right.
And the guy, the music mellowed him out, and he finally wandered out the door.
Yep. And still recording, just like.
I remember doing reports in English class or what have you, and they tell you to write a report, and I would always write a report that I'm going to travel the world and put out a record real soon. And bam!
A lot of people were surprised that we were able to record so early on in our careers, and a lot of the band members, we were really excited about it, because we didn't know anything about the recording industry. So everybody was excited. People who heard the album, they pretty much like it. They were like, this is pretty good, man. You guys are okay for a one-year band.
I remember when we made the record too that, we didn't even know if the band would even be together still by the time the record came out, because they were so young and they could have gone in so many different directions. And I'd go over by their house on North Villery Street and just say, the record's coming out, y'all stay together, keep going. And
when I listened to the first record, I was like, wow, we really didn't know what we were doing, we were just doing it. Now we kind of know what we're doing, so it's like just something to laugh at sometimes.
During that time, that neighborhood was real hot. All the brass band musicians would hang out there. Most social pleasure clubs would start down there. Something was always going on in the Treme area, so that was perfect for us to do that recording right there, because all the neighborhood people came out to see us record, and they helped give us a lot of energy on that album.
We got trouble. We got trouble. We got trouble.
The Treme is really a special place.
I don't know, just like everyone grew up around and just be into music.
Okay.
I mean, all over the neighborhood, like all the kids come up, listen to the brass band sound.
I hate to see it, there's a bar on every corner.
I guess that's just the way the neighborhood kind of started off when it was way back in the days. They needed funeral homes. I guess a lot of people was dying because they've been here for 100 years now. These bars or more. These bars and funeral homes, all in the same neighborhood.
You can walk out of your house and just go into Joe's, you can go into Cal, you can go into Grease, and I mean, that's any time of the day.
Well, basically, the bands that they have downtown, it's like they play, it's like a lot of the brands, well, the Newbert, the Little Rascals, and Treme, all that's the downtown bands, it's like
in their blood to play the brass band music. Like the bands that started uptown, it's like they play what they hear instead of playing what they feel.
Well, this was the official place we used to call the Rebirth headquarters at 1021 North Villeray. Still remember the address, where everybody used to come all over in the Trim area and hang with the Rebirth brass band. It was a big blue house. I mean, from the girls to people in the community that just love coming sit on the post with us, watch us practice. We had this big mirror where Kermit put Rebirth headquarters on top of it, and we hung it outside the house.
I stayed living in the Trimmy area because of them, because they were easy to be accessed to, you know, the car. I done stayed from house to place in the Trimmy, and I lived there until I couldn't live anymore. It got kind of violent, but they grew up in, they wasn't born in that type of era, but as they grew up and they went to school, and I found that they were right there. If they need a band in a minute, they could knock on my door. We need Rebirth, and they get together and they go. They were always like the doctor. They were Dr. Rebirths because they were always was on call, you know.
She would always let the guys from the band come over after school because we all went to Joseph S. Clark High School at the time. So we would just walk from school, walk over here in the afternoon, put our books down, grab our instruments, and walk right to the French Quarter because it was such a short distance to the French Quarter. So it was the perfect place, and that was one of the reasons why we called it headquarters, because no matter where you lived, you could catch a bus, come down into the Trimmy area, you know, leave your stuff, grab your horn, and just walk out to the French Quarter.
We were lucky enough that Miss Frazier moved right around the corner on Villeray, and then she moved on St. Anne a while before that. So we were like right in the middle of all this like crazy. The strip still was kind of going on Claiborne. So last of the strip, we caught all that. We were hanging all those clubs, playing all those clubs. So I mean, we were like blessed to be in this place. At that age, to be in this neighborhood is the biggest blessing I ever had in my whole life.
We was around the corner from where everything was happening on North Robinson Street. That was like the canal street of the Trimmy area. Everybody was this. Right now it's quiet. It never used to be quiet. It used to always have something going on, you know.
Sometimes we would just start up here playing here. We would march around the corner to Ruth's Cozy Corner, which is now Joe's Cozy Corner. We would just strike up playing and march to the bar, march right in playing. People were like, man, this guy's really excited about playing music.
We're right here by a famous spot. This is Mr. Derek Shaz by the Rebirth Brass Band. Everybody know. This is home, away from home, Joe's Cozy Corner.
That's right.
Which used to be Ruth's Cozy Corner. We used to play down there years ago. We used to put the band in one line, march around the corner from the house, and charge $1 to come see the Rebirth Brass Band up there. $1 to come on Thursday nights.
I would come here for lunch break right here at Joe's, drink a quart of beer, and go back to school. Like daily.
What I like about Joe so much,
take it away, Sporty.
Free Heineken's when I'm broke. You know, just a place where, you know, a place where I like to hang out at. You know, in other place I wouldn't feel comfortable. I've been around here, you know, damn near all my life. So that's what I like about Joe's. And I can just tell anybody that's, you know, they know me, they know I am. I'm kind of like that, you know, like the movie on Tears. You can say that. I want to go with somebody who know my name.
Danny Barker would pass and stop at each bar and hang on each corner for about an hour, all day long. Every day we could see Danny Barker that might pull up on any one of these corners. And we were hanging on the corners too. I mean, we had some of the biggest meetings of our life sitting at the bar in this neighborhood. I mean, Uncle Lionel taught me about 50 tunes sitting at the bar.
It's a neighborhood place, you know. People know when they come in, if the Rebirth is playing or Kermit, when you come in, you're gonna have a good time. You know you're gonna come in and dance, and people want to be very friendly, gonna treat you good, feel like, gonna make you feel like you're part of New Orleans.
What? Yeah, that's the neighborhood. That's the old neighborhood I know right there. See, that's a character. That's a Trimmy character right there. What's her name? Rudy.
This used to be a Lula Bell's restaurant. Open 24 hours. Best chicken place in the city of New Orleans.
You know, calling on North Robinson, St. Anne, one of the spots the bangs to hang out when we was in our teenage. Used to be Horn Liquor Store. We used to always buy beer and stuff here. Thunderbird, sodas, potato chips and everything.
Basically junk food.
Yeah. It's New Orleans. There's always somewhere to eat at. Well, this is one of our favorites because we was close to it right here. Go to Ludabell's or go around the corner to Steve's. Used to be and get sandwiches at Steve's a long time ago.
We were living over on Villeray Street or on Governor Nicholas Street. We would walk to the French Quarter this way sometime, stop by here, grab something to drink, or some chips or something, and head to the French Quarter through Louis Armstrong Park. We're standing in front of the Treme Community Center, which is right in, this is really the heart of the Treme area.
They were standing at this big old hill behind the center, and they saw them go up there. I guess that was their practice time, and they would always just go up there and play and pull tuba fat. Always blow that tuba fat. That was the first time, and I got punished for that too, because I stayed out too long.
This is a place that we would always come sometimes just to play, just to try out new tunes. We would pass here every day on our way out to the French Quarter because we live like right across the street. So this is a very important place also.
But basically, here at the Treme Center, like I say, it serves just more than just a center. It serves a place that have a lot of wedding receptions. We do a lot of wedding receptions here. We did a lot of parties. There's all the smaller halls on the other side where you do a lot of little private parties and stuff at. And also have like a lot of community projects here.
We gonna keep this party rolling. What you got for Phil? That's a throwback. I feel like funkin' it up. Everybody sing that. Come on, y'all. I feel like funkin' it up. Everybody, come on. Come on. I feel like funkin' it up. I can't hear you. I feel like funkin' it up. Come on. I feel like funkin' it up. Feel like funkin'. Oh no, y'all, come on. Feel like funkin' it up. I feel like funkin' it up. Feel like funkin'. I feel like funkin' it up. I feel like funkin' it up. Feel like funkin' it up. Woo!
That was the song. Everybody was down with Do What You Want.
Do What You Wanna came from a lot of little different things.
Well, do what you want. I mean, where do you get that from?
Right now, we're at the Infant Complex where we used to stay at 1523 Governor Nichols. There used to be some apartments here. This was this guy's name, Tyrone Miller and T.T. Kentucky used to come and hang around, see the band practice right here.
We playing the music, and they used to want a grand marshal and dance right in front of the horn. Say, come on, man, move on the side, man. I'm gonna do like I want it. Don't push me no more, I'm gonna do like I want it. He used to lean on the door and say, I'm gonna do like I want it. I said, man, I'm gonna write a song about that one day.
The Big 7 Social and Pleasure Club, and we was always going on these hay rides. And since Kermit always messing around the guys, said, well, we're gonna do What You Wanna as a as a song. Then we just on the back of the truck. I started messing around with the bass line.
Play it for him. Play it for you. Boo, 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 boo.
And he started messing with the front. And we was just having a good time, everybody drinking beer, and before you know it, Do What You Want was born.
I brought the bass man, Kermit brought Do What You Want, but I brought all the backgrounds. They didn't get more mad at me on that one. They didn't mad at me on early.
Me, Wolf, and Reg came up putting that I just know that was like we were all hooked up on it. We were all hooked up on that old school stuff anyway. So all those riffs started coming through all our tunes, stuff that we kind of grew up with.
The very first time I heard "Do What You Want," it wasn't on record. They had a picnic in Waverly, and my brother-in-law had a tape recorder, and he made me get by the band and record it. So every time we used to have house parties or whatever, we put the tape on, you know, and a lot of people hadn't heard it before, and the party would start, but they do what you want.
They was starting to germinate while we were on tour. They had started it before we left, but it was really starting to gel when we were on tour in Europe.
I know incredible as it sounds, but both of them are original versions, because the one on Do Back is a slower version. And that's how we started playing it. When we did the next record on Feel Like Funkin It Up, we added a new piece to it, and that changed the whole song again, but you still know it was Do What You Want. So that's two original songs with just two different formats, was basically the same song.
The first time I heard Do What You Want was actually in the street. And it immediately caught my ear. It has a chorus that's a little bit like Bobby Bland's Turn on Your Love Light.
I've always thought that that's really kind of based on Shortening Bread riff. You know, Mama's Little Baby, Little Short. Think about it.
That's an interesting kind of twist to bring into a brass band sound.
I also remember when they were doing a lot of second lines, and specifically they were doing a lot of their friends' funerals who, because of the drug scene at that time, were dying at very, very young ages. And like a lot of their songs, Leave That Pipe Alone came out of the second line following the band and just sort of a spontaneous chant.
But it's one of the most fun things about putting out a record is to have a little hit in the place where the record comes from. And if you can't take somebody like Rebirth and have a pop hit, a nationwide pop hit with them, Feel Like Funkin It Up was a big deal in New Orleans.
We didn't think it would become a hit. We didn't make the song to become a hit. We just did it because it was something that we wanted to do.
During that time, we felt like we was mega superstars in the city. I was like, dang, they playing our song on the radio. Actually, we was coming from Mississippi. We did a gig, a wedding reception in Mississippi, and we was driving in the van, and they said we had it on the radio station holler. Now I'm about to play the #1 song in the city, Do What You Want by the Rebirth Brass Band. We all in the van listening like, this is incredible.
#1 for about 2 months maybe. #1 every day almost. #1 song on the countdown like they do today. Do What You Wanna. I mean, we didn't even care. We like, yeah, okay, we got it again. It's like no big deal, almost.
It got played on the R&B stations, and even today it's somewhat of a carnival anthem.
There used to be a lot more Mardi Gras anthems, you know, in the 50s, the R&B scene, and there haven't been that many new, that kind of feeling, Do What You Wanna kind of feeling songs. And so that one was, you know, made for Mardi Gras, for the streets, for the feeling that, you know, that is, you know.
You really have to go in the bars where they play at, so you can really appreciate, you know, what they're going through. If they're having a bad day, they hear that song, Do What You Wanna, they go by the jukebox, they'll leave their head down, and they just crawl. What's called? They go shake a load. Shake a load over. That's what they did. You know, Do What You Wanna have just that type of effect on people spiritually.
It was crazy. I done saw guys jump on in cones and on trombone. I done saw people wilding all over the ground. They just take the clothes off. When they all they strike up, Do What You Wanna, it was just like the national anthem of the band.
Hey, we did something that we thought we never would do, and from that opened up all kind of dudes. We got to travel around the world, and we became like hometown heroes. It was fun. So we was hometown heroes before Master P and all Cash Money and them.
Right now it's like we're dealing with history. You know, we'll be able to tell our children and grandchildren, you know, we was there when they made that song, because Do What You Want is gonna be around forever. Mm-hmm. And Tornado is gonna be around forever as long as it's Mardi Gras music. When you think about Mardi Gras, you think about Rebirth.
When I start going to the Glass House, that's when I start catching them at the Glass House live.
That was the place to be.
Hot, sweaty, tight, nasty.
When I realized who the Dirty Dozen was, I would go every Monday night. And slowly but surely I approached the lady and said, hey, I would like to bring my band here every Thursday night. First couple of times she turned me down. Then I think gradually she found out we were a little hot little brass band. And finally she gave us the gig.
Everybody was close and you could feel everybody dancing and be right there on you. You could feel it's a lot of fun, man.
Your first time having sex, your first time driving a car, anything your first time doing that you really enjoyed, that's how the Glass House was every time. We had one night actually a guy kicked over the heater and broke the gas line. We grabbed some duct tape, taped up the gas line and kept on rolling, just told everybody don't smoke.
So tell me about the time the lights went out in the Glass House.
Oh man, the lights were out all the time.
It wasn't a typical night because that was the first time that ever happened. I don't know if they paid the light bill or what.
And it was around the same time that that EU had a big hit with that record, The Butt. And they walked in and just started playing The Butt, and the lights went out, and they kept going. So what are your memories of the night the lights went out in the Glass House?
What year that was?
And a guy drove his car to the door and put in the high beams, and we did the gig.
The lights went out, the band didn't stop, we didn't stop. The guy pulled up with a motorcycle and shined a light through the door.
Right.
And we just went from there. We still did our thing till the rest of the night.
Yeah.
Too many Jackson Coke that night for me, probably. I know, but you're right, I remember that. All I remember was still playing because, I couldn't see too much. Everybody was still dancing and stuff.
The electricity comes from the brass band. You know what I'm saying? Either you're going to dance in the light or you're going to dance in the dark. If you could dance, you could dance.
Back in the 70s and 80s, second line it was a little slower, a little laid back with the, with the handkerchief, and you might do the umbrella. But since Rebirth and picked it up, you got to put that handkerchief down, you got to put that umbrella down, you got to, use all your body parts.
You got to get funky.
You got to use all your body parts.
You got to sweat.
The Glass House, we knew it was going to always be there, and we say, man, this is like the Bible of the brass band right here by the Glass House. So we had to record the album.
I don't think it gets any more real than Live at the Glass House in New Orleans, which of course was a pivotal place for the whole new brass band sound to form, to come together.
I'd been making all these live to 2-track recordings, and then they wanted to do one in the Glass House, and I'd done some for like OZ in there, done the Dirty Dozen in there, so I kind of knew what was up recording in that place, and so we just hooked it up.
I could imagine back then, it's hard to even remember, but I know we were hype, hype and couldn't wait to hit the stage. And back then, we were full of all that ice cold beer, all the good reefers, just ready to make some noise.
I was really happy with the whole thing, and I wasn't happy with what came out on the CD, but I was really happy with what actually happened when we recorded it.
Live recording is tricky. Some people think it must be easier than making a record in the studio, but it's actually not, because you're just going to kind of catch it on the fly.
The mix was done. I mean, so you got it's straight to stereo, and that's what, we do this all the time, like in this building where jazz records, the great jazz records of the world were made, they played, it went on recording, it went down, and there it is. And then you master it and put it on vinyl or CD or whatever. Well, this was the same situation, but I guess, I don't know, the producer did something to it in the middle.
The record that Bingham made or recorded and the one that Rounder released, they swear are two different albums. He said when Bingham did it, it was in your face, raw, and it sounded like a Rebirth gig.
The guy from the New York Times had been at the thing and actually heard the record and was like, what the hell is this? So when I wrote to him and I said, yeah, this is bad, and he goes, well, look, I can't do this. All these other journalists, we have to be objective. You can be the butthole. You have nothing to lose. You can be the madman that rants and raves in print, and everyone will just expect it, so go ahead.
In the end, I think it captures the spirit.
So everyone was happy, except, you know, I never worked for Rounder again.
They were the first ones to participate in the fusion of the wild Indian music and the brass band music, which is to me, one of the most exciting fusions of the modern period.
It's all dedication and discipline. It all falls in the same field. You know, it's just with the Indian suit. You know, you design your costume. It's just like a second line parade, but it's just with Indian suits on.
Let's go get 'em. Let's go get 'em down on fire. Let's go get 'em early in the morning. Let's go get 'em. Come with no warning. Let's go get 'em. Jump with no warning.
Go about designing it. It's really on you. You know, I do it as I go. Like you get a main piece like that suit that's, you know, it's like an underwater scenery. You know, I got the seahorse and the shells and the fishes. You know, it was a whole underwater scenery. You know what your main thing is. Like my main thing is the seahorses, so everything else fall in place after you start sewing. This suit for this year, I changed it like 3-4 times. It's all your thinking pattern. You know, if you stay thinking about what you want to do with it, always gonna change.
Let's go get 'em, gang, keep coming. Let's go get 'em. Got a big gang coming. Let's go get 'em. Gucci make fire. Let's go get 'em. Fire on the fire. Let's go get 'em. Go there. Let's go get 'em. Hoorah!
Everything that they have out there, the shotguns and all that be real, just in the case.
Wow.
But see, like you gotta keep it. I put Velcro on them because you can't, you know, you don't want to get arrested for the machete, and it's just a part of your costume, you know, and you have a weapon out there.
But it almost seemed a natural thing that with the modern brass band movement that fused so many of the local musical styles and different musics that were popular on the radio and in the community, it almost sort of seemed natural that Mardi Gras Indian music would sort of become important in that mix.
You gotta learn the chants because, you know, you gotta sing with the tribe. You know, you gotta. That's the, you know, it's like that's the groove of the second line. It's just like a second line where the band is playing and they saying the different chants with the band. It's just you got Indians and the tamarines and the drums, and you just singing all that chant.
Heart getting heavy. Let's go get 'em. Heart getting heavy. Let's go get 'em. Jumping on fire. Let's go get 'em. Jumping on fire. Let's go get 'em. Let's go get 'em. Let's go get 'em.
Playing for the second line is work. Being an Indian is recreation. You love what you're doing by playing music, but then you get paid for it. You know, by being an Indian, you showing a craft.
Little Glenn pushed me. Little Glenn pushed me.
That was, I think, one of the best albums we did, Take It to the Street.
That's a great album. That's a terrific album. I used to use that for my theme song, Take It to the Streets.
At that point, we were at like the height of our popularity as well as our musicianship. And everybody was really into what we were doing. And, I mean, we were just like, everything was hitting on all cylinders.
We were at our height, then we was like the #1 second line band in the whole city then.
That band there, it was no changes in the band, and everybody had been there. It's like, you know, you get so used to playing with a person, you know, everybody just gel together.
We were gigging every night, all night. So we were warmed up.
You could tell during that time we did Take It to the Street that we was getting ready to go to another level because we did that song, Same Thing On. That sounded like a hip hop song, or also with Louis Armstrong type song with Kermit singing.
Kermit basically was like, man, we need a record where Keith could put some boom and the cats are playing in their cars, man. Something like a rap record.
There's a great tune. And also a great to take a Rick James composition and turn it into something that comes out of the Ibervilles, you know.
I remember recording the music and not having words yet. I remember Swinging Gate singing it on the corner to me. And we were under the pressure we were going to let Prince sing it. So we let Prince sing it. Everybody was like, nah. Then we let Stafford sing it. Everybody was like, nah. Say, hey, let Kermit sing it. And you know, I'm sitting in the background rehearsing all the while.
The funniest band member was John Gilbert, Prince. He sounded like one of the Ohio players who were like, no, we can't use this, because it'll go from a serious thing to a comedy show.
We actually never did practice it, but we got in the studio. We said, man, let's do that Swinging Gate song. What? Say everything on. I said, okay, boom. We did the busting out tune and add the words on top of it. And man, it was all.
Let Kermit try it. I got up there and tore it up in one notch. And he said, that's it, that's a cut. Let's go to the next song.
We're gonna bring this old man up. Oh yeah, y'all give it up for the king of the swing, the king of the barbecue, Mr. Kermit Ruffins, y'all give it up! Hey girl, let me tell you, you gotta come out the club. I saw your last name with the same clothes on, y'all. Come on, y'all, come on, y'all, come on, 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 come on. Roaches running around your house. Children outside screwing while you're sitting there running your mouth. I don't know how hard I try to tell you how to run your life. Now that people done put you out, where you gonna live that night? You got the same thing on, girl. Same thing on. I smell you. Same thing on, girl. Same thing on. You got the same thing on, girl. Same thing on. I smell you. Same thing on. You got the same thing on. We got, whoa, 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 whoa. Make way for the rebirth. Whoa.
Some people try to get us off the streets, like having us on travel a lot around the world. I know we love going to around the world to go to all our fans, but it would be a shame for us to get off the street because that's where we came from. As long as I can walk and hold that tuba on my shoulder, I'm gonna try it.
You have to play on the streets. You have to. It is a must. You can't be a New Orleans band if you haven't played on the streets, a brass band. The streets are a necessity in the brass band.
Well, you know, the neighborhood second line is a very important thing. A lot of people only see the entertainment value of it. Oh, we're having a good time, and that's where celebrate, dance. But really, it fills a very important social and psychological need. Originally, the club parades were an offshoot of the post-Reconstruction times when blacks would gather to show strength and a sense of triumph and unity in their ongoing battle for social justice and equality. Now, the music came to represent, as well as the functions themselves, a way of finding and achieving self-worth, a way of feeling togetherness. And so they really were a very unique way of combining the need for coming together, need for strength and unity in the face of racial segregation, and also the traditional New Orleans need for celebration.
When the kids saw Rebirth and how young they were really young. And they thought, hey, I can do this too. So it's been great. I second line every Sunday, and so I see that, you know, that is kept going, because that tradition, which is huge, over 100 years old, it's been kept going by the young bands, because it's not easy to be out there for 4 hours, and I mean, dancing is one thing, blowing a tuba is another.
Parade with the Lady Jolly Bunch, and they pushed us all the way down the streets for 4 hours. Yeah, they were running us, you know. And when you're on a second line with the Rebirth, that's what you do. You run.
I was parading with this group called the Swingers, and we was getting a band, you know, getting our stuff together to get a band, and we heard about the Rebirth, and we went to see them, and that was my first time seeing them. I was like just blown away.
I'm one of the original New Orleans Lady Buck Jumpers, and we are one of the groups Rebirth first played for. They've been together 20 years, and we've been together 19, and they have played for us all 19 years.
The guy that was over our group, he didn't want to get the Rebirth. He had a band already, but so that made me feel like we went out there for nothing. So the next year, which was 1985, we started our own club, which is the First Five, and we've had the Rebirth for 17 years to this day.
It's hard to explain. It's really hard to explain, because Rebirth got this different beat than all the rest of the bands have. And the Lady Buck Jumpers wouldn't parade with nobody but the Rebirth Brass Band. And it's just this beat that make you wanna, I don't know, you wanna do all kind of stuff when the Rebirth playing for you. Me and Phil have this competition thing, you know. I ain't gonna conk out if he don't conk out, you know. So we be going at it on that day.
My favorite place to hear the Rebirth is anytime they're performing in the streets, parading, second line, because it's so different. This New Orleans brass band music, in the context of the streets, you're on some little narrow neighborhood street, the sounds reverberating off these little wood Creole cottages made out of, you know, cypress and whatnot. And then just all the moisture in the air itself has an effect to me on the sound.
Well, I've often heard it said that you can't take the sound of real New Orleans music and export it somewhere else. That you have to hear it in the streets, that you have to be here. And I think that's the remarkable thing that Philip and Keith have accomplished, is that they're able to take that sound of the street and take it somewhere else. It's not an easy thing to do. And that's what appealed to us at Rounder Records. They have a very raw vitality. If you see them on a second line or if you see them at a concert hall in New England, they put forward that same energy. They've been able to pick this thing up and transport it, and I don't think many people have been able to do that as successfully.
Whatever they played, it was all rooted in, you know, Ursuline Street on Sunday afternoon with about 105 degrees and the sun beating down, hundreds of people leaping up in the air. You guys following along selling beers for $1 and turkey necks, you know. When I see them in other places, because sometimes I have the good fortune of being on the same events with them, and it's always just a kick. And I watch them play, and these kids go nuts. Take that, like jam band festivals and things. And these kids go nuts. They've never seen nothing like this. And I always think, man, if they had any glimpse of where these guys come from and what is their natural habitat, it's so far out.
All of this going back to African tradition, I think the second lines were really a sort of modern New Orleans transformation of African tradition, which even goes as deep as involving spiritual transformation. And so I think one of the main aspects of the second line is that, you know, a lot of people enter into sort of like a possession state. In fact, there's like mass possession sometimes. Things like time, like weather conditions, all of those things seem to be transformed or changed into something else by the music and by the spirit of people dancing. And that collective spirit sort of charged people up. Mardi Gras is not as crucial to the brass band tradition as a lot of people think. Certainly brass bands played at Mardi Gras parades. I think the concept behind Mardi Gras perhaps is very important, because that's a lasting thing, the idea of masking and changing. How can I take, if you go all the way back to the tradition, how can I take this standard written European march and give it a voice, make it say something, you know? That whole idea of transforming reality into a personalized, communal, ancestral type of reality. I think that's been an important part of the tradition all along. So in that sense, Mardi Gras is the idea of masking reality and having a good time, but it doesn't just last for a season, it lasts for a lifetime.
They're about to take a big trip to Africa. I mean, I really wanted to go to Africa, but we just did like a long month in Europe, which was like, you know, it's killer for anybody that's homesick as much as me.
Kermit said, I think I'm not going to go on the Africa trip. I said, cool, but we're going to do it. We got enough people. We got some other guys to take the place in.
No way in the world I'm going to Africa for 6 weeks. I mean, I probably would have went for a week, and maybe that would have been my last trip. But I was at my tail end.
That's when we started big, started breaking into new members.
When we got there, we were just blown away, to see where our music had come from, to learn more about our roots as, as people. It was like, wow, this is a lot to see. We went to 6 different countries in 6 weeks, so we spent like a week in every country. We went to Egypt. We even went to Syria because we couldn't go to Algeria because there was like a civil war going on. It was like, Syria, wow, that's the Middle East, It was like, are people going to dance our music in the Middle East? And people actually got up and danced. Like, wow.
Oh, the African band. Now, that was the best band, to me, Phil put together as far as showmanship and musicianship. And that's the only band that hasn't recorded. And it's strange because, all that time we spent together, we didn't do any recordings. And if you think about history and the way things go, a lot of your best things were kept secret. So that's how we treat that treasure.
We did the 6 weeks in Africa, which was great. And we came back and recorded on Roll It.
It was the beginning of those sessions that actually demarked when Kermit was not in the Rebirth anymore.
At that time we were doing a lot of traveling. And he didn't want to do all that traveling. And he was just like, I'm going to get my own thing, I'm gonna do my own thing, and I ain't going to have to travel no more.
It happened gradually, it happened kind of organically, where Kermit gradually found his feet on his own, and so did the Rebirth.
He was just gravitating that direction, away from the kind of brass band wildness and into more of the old time Louis Armstrong, sit down, aggravation, that he does so well.
Kermit he's more of a traditionalist. He wanted to stick to the more traditional music. And people that we were playing for, they were more modern. Hip-hop was exploding on the scene, and you have to play what people want to hear.
Out on the road, he always listened to Louis and be cooking on the road and listening to Louis and cooking on the road and Louis this and telling us why y'all listening to that kind of music. You need to be listening to Louis, and that's Louis. Louis doing him, and we gotta do what we do.
Kermit stays home and cooking barbecue and smoking Davis's free pot.
All the good reefer.
Allison, without inquiring whether it's okay with me, shows up at the first recording session with Kermit, and Kermit is wearing his last year's uniform, the black leather jacket that says Kermit Ruffins, leader of the Rebirth, across the thing, and everybody else is in these kunte cloth things.
He was just in his little world, that's Kermit, he did what he wanted to do.
And Allison goes, well, I brought Kermit. I'm going, and so Kermit and Phil go over there and, well, Kermit, you're not really in the band anymore, and we've got 2 new trumpet players, and we don't think that we really want you on this thing, but we'll let you do 1 vocal and 1 trumpet solo, but you have to overdub them.
He had Kermit come do the overdubs, but on one song, it's just like you just hear Kermit by himself. I said, Keith, you should have had, when Kermit do the overdubs, you should have had the band to come back it up. That was the discrepancy.
So, that was when Kermit got really cut out of the herd.
When Kermit left, I had no choice but to, go with the flow. I never looked at me as a lead trumpet, trumpeter. Most guys in a band like Phil, all of them, they tell me to lead as of right now.
I stepped it up a little bit, yeah. I stepped it up, I had to.
And I'm standing on the corner with Phil across the street one night. I said, yeah, Phil. I said, everybody's gonna try to make this look like it's a bad thing, but I said, this is a good thing for both of us. And I said, let's keep that in mind, and nobody can have us around here fussing like little babies or anything.
Currently, we best friends as of today. A lot of people ask, was it a bad split? I said, no, that was, really be honest, that was the best thing for both of us.
Now it seems the direction they moved is sort of away from really a lead singer as a focus, more really the band itself is the focus. And they still have some vocals in the repertoire, but I think the instrumentation is really kind of taken over as the star of the show.
I remember talking to Keith about the making of Rollin', and sounded like a fairly highly charged atmosphere. He was trying to get something out of them that maybe hadn't been gotten out of them before. I think probably he succeeded in it too, but it wasn't always an easy process.
Rollin' is kind of an unusual record because me being a regular record producer rather than kind of a jazz guy, I made sure that they all played in tune, which required them doing many takes, particularly for the trumpet players who are kind of used to being slack and making bad notes, which I would stop them and whip them and be the bad guy.
Keith Keller, yeah, he put his ogre flame on everything.
And so it made a dichotomy in the recording process between, for example, the rhythm section and the trumpets and the saxes. The tension built up through the recording process, and this went on for a week at a time, and the tension was building slowly and slowly and slowly, and the rhythm section, who kept doing Grammy quality take after Grammy quality take, kept getting pissed off at the front line, who kept making clams.
The producer wanted too much power. Let the Rebirth do their thing.
And I'd stop the tape machine and say, fuck you guys, let's get it right, and so what happened is Ajay went up to one of the trumpet players and grabbed him by the throat and said, man, I keep doing these great Grammy tracks and you're fucking up, what are you doing to me? And so Phil turned to Ajay and went, ah, you can't do that, I'm the band leader! And Phil and Ajay, who kept doing completely fine takes, got in a fist fight in the hallway of my studio over who would be disciplining the trumpet players.
Gee, this is an interesting way to approach making a record.
Phil said, the pecking order is I'm the band leader and I've got to kick the trumpet player's ass, and you being the drummer, you're not the band leader. And they ended up getting a fist fight.
No conflict at all.
And AJ's taking a roundhouse punch and goes, whoom, and does that. I happened to be standing there, and I put my hand out in front of him and caught his fist right in front of AJ, right in front of Phil's mouth, and I said, AJ, Phil's a tuba player. I don't care if you hit him, but don't hit him in the teeth. He'll never be able to play tuba again.
Sometimes making records is not easy. There are personalities that clash.
So AJ turned around and went, BAM! And hit my clock, which was on the wall, and shattered my clock. So my clock fell in half and fell on the ground. So I made AJ and Phil sign my clock.
I think I've had some conflicts in my recording sessions, but I can never remember an actual fight, so.
By the guys seeing me and Phil going through it that much, they really respected that it must mean something to us. So everybody bogged down, got their shit together.
When you listen to it, I think it's a terrific record.
That record sucks. I hate rolling. I just had to say that on tape. I do not like rolling for nothing, because that's one record we could have came. But I didn't want to end like that. I wanted to end with a pow, And that was the last record with Kermit, that we could have did it better.
Yeah. The gremlin. On the trumpet. Original music, y'all. By the Rebirth Brass Band once again. We come to party. Well, let's rock and roll, rock and roll. We come to party. Well, let's rock and roll, rock and roll. We come to party. Let's rock and roll, rock and roll. We come to party. Let's rock and roll. We come to party. 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 We come to party.
They wanted to come out with another record. Their deal with Rounder had been wrapped up after they released Rollin', and that was also the last record that Kermit was on. So it was really kind of scary.
During that time, the members have changed in the band, so we was trying to find a direction.
The first thing they wanted to do, no matter what, on their next album, they wanted to use Mark Bingham.
I had no idea what they were going to do. I mean, all I knew is we brought Mike Ward in to play with them. The musicians make 95% of the sounds, and then after that you can either screw it up or not, And so in this case, I think the Mike Ward thing really kind of helped that whole vibe somehow on that record, and they were doing different kind of material, and they were doing like, 17-minute songs.
That tuba sound is something different than I've heard in previous recordings of brass bands. It's I don't know if it's in the production or if it's the way they're playing it. I really don't know how to articulate spit and alchemy like that.
Innovation in things, if you're in the middle of it, you usually don't know.
We started traveling on the road so much that we actually was turned to more of a stage band, and that made the music change. We said, well, we still gonna be funky, but let's liven up our performances.
It got faster, but it's more of a
he just wants
African type groove, Caribbean and African type. A lot of off style. Beats are very off.
It was a matter of time before the rest of the bands, stopped playing Gloryland over and over and started, getting into some different stuff.
It wasn't more traditional like the regular second line brass band music, but at the same time, you still can play those songs in the street and you still could dance off them. And that was just us growing up then.
As long as the bass drum right there in the pocket, you can work out.
Come to Party is my favorite song because at first I could not second line. But I heard them playing that song and I was patting my feet and nodding my head. Next thing you know, I was on the stage.
So the Rebirth makes people psychotic, and they go nuts.
It was the drums that just made me just want to get up on stage and do my shake that load off dance.
They've done more than beer to get, young white people to dance,
The Maple Leaf is like the granddaddy of venue.
Y'all ready to party, y'all? Hell no. Hell no. Are you all ready to party? It's a little bit better, y'all.
They don't have too many places where you can go on a Tuesday night, and have a good time, so everybody goes to the Maple Leaf.
Booker, for a long time, the man who I'm wearing his shirt back here, who was a fabulous musician, as you know, a dear friend of mine too. But he played regularly on Tuesdays, and then there were various acts after that. The Subdudes did the Tuesdays for a while until they moved to Colorado. And sometime around '88 or '89, the Tuesday slot was open.
They had lost their Woodshed gig, and I was working with Rockin' Dukes Sr., who's now passed on. And he was playing Maple Leaf regularly on Saturday nights. And I knew John Parsons was a good guy and knew the venue and thought, the Rebirth could play uptown, up here in Carrollton, and probably catch on with some of the Tulane kids. Because down at the Glass House, that was a different audience. That was a very neighborhood, community audience.
Friend named Vivian Kahn, and She was the one, as I recollect, who told me about the Rebirth brass band. They were playing down at the Glass House. We went down there one night, and I was introduced to the guys in the band, and I hired them that night.
When we first did the Maple Leaf, I think it's the most we had in the room right here was y'all three and myself.
All gigs, the way it was back then, all gigs you could tell like within 6 weeks whether they're going to work or not. In my recollection, that was kind of my formula, and they took off pretty fast.
Now there's a lot more people in the audience than there is on stage.
They started out, and it was very lightly attended, and they just became popular very quickly. And at the time, I was a bartender here, and the crowd grew quickly, and it grew busy enough to where one bartender couldn't handle it, and the fellow who was working at the time didn't want to share his shifts with anyone. So he kept saying that, you know, he could handle it, but he couldn't. And I would come downstairs and I would work 3 hours. I would make $150 and I wouldn't have to stock beer. It was a dream for a bartender.
Yep, all over the world, wherever we go at, they be like, I'm gonna be in New Orleans and such and such. They're gonna be at the Maple Leaf Tuesday. So they know to go to the Maple Leaf when they come in town.
I get about 4 to 5 calls a week from people from out of town calling me, asking me where to find the funk in New Orleans. And I don't have any disrespect against any of the funk bands in New Orleans, but I tell every single one of my callers to go check out Rebirth on Tuesday at the Maple Leaf. Every single one of them.
My favorite Rebirth album is you know, the one that was recorded here at the Maple Leaf. And that, I believe, was the best-selling album at Jazz Fest.
My first album, which was live at the Maple Leaf, man, I was scared, man. I was scared dookulous. We know the other word. But, oh, man. But, I mean, when I recorded the first album, it made me more confident. Knowing the response that people gave us, you know, they loved it.
Tuesday in between Christmas and New Year's. That one is an enormous reunion. All kinds of people who grew up in New Orleans and go to college out of town, they come back, and on that Tuesday they show up at the Maple Leaf, and that's become a thing. It's like, you know, reunion night. And then the Tuesday when exams are over, and sometimes it's right after Jazz Fest. This year it's a week after Jazz Fest. That Tuesday is huge always. It's always bigger than the Jazz Fest Tuesday. And that's because all these college students, many of whom are leaving New Orleans forever, come to the Maple Leaf to hear Rebirth for probably the last time, unless Rebirth goes to the town that they are moving to.
Sometimes we use mics, sometimes we don't. It's a party atmosphere. You got black, white, everybody all over the world come there. Beautiful place, perfect place for us.
It's nice, it's intimate. The crowd is right there, you know, and I like to remain approachable, you know. Some people say, oh man, the Rebirth for stars, man, those guys don't want to talk. Man, I love it, because the fans are what makes us, you know. If they don't come, you know, there's no need for us to play. You know, if there's no need for us to play, there's no need for us to be here.
Ladies and gentlemen, this song is a true story. It's real. Ain't nothing to think about it. Ain't nothing to think about it. Whoa, fella. See, I try hard to do right, but I keep on doing wrong. Let me do my thing. You say stop, I say go. I don't know why. Stop!
This is the guy who coined the phrase Hot Venom right here, Mr. Hot Venom himself.
That's one album we really tried to see like we was actually playing in the street, that whole vibe.
Hot Venom is the venom when you shoot the venom on a girl. The poison.
From the whole Rebirth melody, with all the chanting we did, all the percussion we did, and even with the rap song and stuff, we say this is what people know us from. They see us do these kind of shows, they see us in the street, let's see can we do this on this album. And that's why we did it, Hot Venom.
We base our things on the street, whatever the street tells us, because that's where we come from.
Hot Venom was like more of a hip-hop style CD.
Me and Tyrus Chapman try to do the little hip-hop thing, make it, move it up a little funkier, and do the rap thing, you know, bring in the younger cats, try to do the rap thing.
People that we hang out with, people that we grew up with, they want to hear stuff that they hear on the radio. They want to hear something that they can identify with.
When we did those songs on the album on the street, the crowd was like a bunch of Africans going crazy. The only thing was missing was Spears. Everybody jumping up and down, going crazy.
We didn't want to do what everybody did. Then we said, you know what? Why, since they already doing it, let's bring in the actually hip-hop singers themselves. That's why we brought the Soulja Slim and Cheeky Black.
Bounce is second line without the horns. So I mean, when you add the horns, it's still that bouncy feeling that we used to, you know.
We'll have the real rappers with the brass band, and let's show everybody how it's supposed to really be done.
Come on, Phil, give it to me. Oh, what, somebody say Rebirth. Say Cheeky Black. Say Rebirth. Say Cheeky Black. That's Rebirth. I'm Cheeky Black. That's Rebirth. I'm Cheeky Black. Pop, go to pussy, make the pussy go pop. Pop, go to pussy, make the pussy go pop. Pop, go to pussy, make the pussy go pop. Hey, I said pop, go to pussy, make the pussy go pop. Pop, go to pussy, pop, 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 go to pussy, make the pussy go pop. Hey, pop the pussy. Somebody say shake it, shake, 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 shake. Do my ladies run this motherfucker? Do my nigga roll it? Do my ladies rule on me. Say bitch get on me. Say bitch get on me. Bitch what, bitch, bitch. Say bitch get on me. Bitch get on me. Bitch get on me. Say bitch get on me. Boogie. Swing that dick like a baseball bat. Swing that dick like a baseball bat. Damn. Wait. All right, look, I'm gonna let you do this. Hit her in the shadow with the one-eye critter. Hit her in the shadow with the one-eye. Hit her in the shadow with the one-eye. Y'all don't know. Hit her in the shadow with the one-eye. One-eye. Hit her in the shadow with the one-eye. Look, I said I'm a wild girl. Ride that dick like a cowgirl. Bitch, look at here, it's my world. Take it to the top with the wild boy. Bitch, don't come and rub me loud, girl. Don't let me get you with the style, girl. Get very cheeky buck wild, girl. What that is, that loud lord. Bitch, don't fucking with a wild boy.
Like 50 brass bands in the city right now because of us. I take total responsibility for that style, that way of living, that whole 9 yards that everybody's doing up to the day. I take total responsibility. Me, Philip, and everybody else that was involved with that ought to feel the same way.
But to see all these young kids and all these brass bands popping up, you know, shows that, hey, we have done something positive to influence somebody else to come and want to be in a brass band. You know, that way, why tell everybody to pick up guns and sell the drugs when you can pick up an instrument? So I'm glad to see that. I feel like I was a big part of that.
Rebirth's here to stay. I say, hey, don't go nowhere. Rebirth's on his way. I say, hey, don't go nowhere.